Hello, anybody on?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you, Jack.
Like print all this and all right, so
Right. I love it. Right. All right, cool. So now you take the finger and slides. Did it work? Did it?
detect the input. If I turned it off, I think it has like some kind of cooling cycle that's going through because
Yeah.
it's not on right now.
Right.
So.
Oh boy. Did we not bring ours?
I'm sorry.
This is the school. This is the school.
I brought another projector just in case. But...
Okay. Right. Yeah, I don't know where ours is. Steve didn't seem to have it.
It was like a mad rush to hand everything to me when we took over.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. I'm like, have fun.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Margo. How's it going?
What happened to the
I'm doing okay. If I can get the projector to turn on.
Steve does not, I don't believe he does, but feel free to ask him again.
Hey. Oh, okay. Nice to put a face to a name. Okay, nice to meet you. Right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, sharing food, so I think I can minimize my car.
And in the meantime,
Mike, I think I want to be here.
All right, we're ready.
I want to be.
You want to be there?
I guess be in the camera.
The camera, yeah, you stand here, you're on the camera.
You stand on
Stand
that?
right here. You look at that monitor behind you. So you're right to the right of the screen.
Yeah, you're in the middle there. You're in that. Yeah. Can you? Well, I should be okay because Dave's the host, so he should be letting these people in from the darn waiting room. I love how it's all standing room, but there's chairs everywhere.
I know.
It's gonna be fun. I just moved it a little bit more so that whether over there, okay. I'm just gonna hang right here where I'm near power. I bought a new Wi-Fi that actually works, so
Good.
I don't have to steal your phone. Can I use your not secure work phone, please? Yeah, do you know, is there any way to make it so that the screen
Hey,
share
are
is
we
smaller?
ready to rock?
I'm not sure. We ready?
I will please,
I want to make sure Lisa's good.
give me one second. Go check on YouTube and make sure you can hear.
Okay.
I believe we're ready to go. He's just gonna make sure that he can hear us on YouTube, but other than that, like 7:03, not bad. We've started much later in the past.
Good evening, Arlington Democrats and Arlington community members.
You're gonna have to hold it real close.
Can everybody hear me all right? No? How about that right there? Oh, you're kidding me. Welcome everybody to the February Arlington Democrats meeting. I want to thank everybody for being here for this very special meeting. We are in an Arlington public school, so I just want to remind everybody to please wear your mask. Please keep your mask on. I'll keep my voice up. If you're speaking, I think we should take off your mask, is what we've been doing. Again, welcome to our meeting. Please practice all other COVID advisory regulations. And again, thanks folks for being here. Want to have ask a couple questions, get an icebreaker. How many people here are from South Arlington? Pretty good crowd, thank you. How many people here from North Arlington? All right, kind of the same. How many people here are taxpayers? Oh my gosh. We all have something in common. So I want to welcome everybody to this meeting. We've got a packed agenda. There's a lot of business. I've been notified that we have a quorum. We've got a lot of business to attend to today. We are going to have several voting items. We're going to vote in some new members. We are going to select method of nomination for county board. We've got an 8th district convention matter that we need to vote on, and then we will get to the main event, our discussion of the school board endorsement process, whether we have one or don't have one. I know everybody's looking forward to that process. I want to just kind of tee that up a little bit for you. Our steering committee had their retreat last Saturday, and they approved this item for the agenda. And the way it's going to work is that we are going to have 60 minutes of pure sharing of thoughts and ideas on the school board endorsement process, whether we have one or not. At the end of that 60 minutes, the voting will begin shortly thereafter. It is committee members, voting members of the committee will be voting to make the decision. Voting will close at noon on Thursday. We wanted to make sure that every voting member of the committee had an opportunity to hear everything that people wanted to say tonight. And we wanted to make sure that all members of the committee had an opportunity to vote on what is a very important decision. So we will be adjourning the meeting at noon tomorrow. And just to get that piece of business out of the way, would ask for a motion to adjourn on Thursday.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn at noon on Thursday.
Corey Barton, thank you. Craig Hines, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, no. Ayes carried. Thank you so much, everybody.
Sorry, can I get the take the sign in?
We're in the middle of a motion.
I know. I'm the secretary. I need somebody to stand and sign in.
And
I don't know if I will.
Laura, can you help her sign? All right. Now, our first item of business. Next slide, please.
Mike's computer here.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Check that real quick.
Perfect. Our next one.
Next. There?
Newly elected. So Saturday at our steering retreat, we did have 3 newly elected officers. Fatima Argon is our new equity and inclusion vice chair. Kevin McCaffrey is our new voter support vice chair. Izzy Tavares is our new public relations vice chair. Welcome all 3 of those folks to the committee. And here's the next slide. Appointed officers. So we have a number of our officer positions are appointed, and they were appointed by myself, and they need to be confirmed by the whole committee. So let's go to that list of people, and it's a whole bunch of people. Our voter support positions, as you can see, the board, technology, our caucus chairs. Next slide, please. Thank you. A lot of great outreach folks being confirmed today. And comms and my favorite, our Beyond Arlington folks. And we also have some precinct operations positions being filled. And I think maybe Sarah Lanford is going to come up and say a word on those.
Steve, this is great call. Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Lanford. I'm the new chair of precinct ops, and I just wanted to let y'all know we have a great slate of area chairs that we are confirming tonight, along with a couple of vice chairs. So I really appreciate y'all's support, and thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Do I have a motion to, now, for this voting item, it's only the people with a blue card that are eligible to vote. So if you have a blue card, you are a voter for this voting item. Bob Platt made the motion. Thank you. Do I have a second? Howard Salaki made the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome to all of our new officers. Now, for all the remaining motions and votes, our new officers are eligible to vote, save for the 6 or so precinct captains that we just swore in. You will be eligible to vote after the close of this meeting. Our next slide, please. Next. Next.
Other way.
Wrong way. We're on the wrong
Yes,
way.
there you go.
Did it.
Ah, perfect. All right. Yeah, here's our agenda for the evening, and I've kind of gone over that already. We expect that the majority of our time will be spent on the school board endorsement conversation. So, with all likelihood, our functional reports from outreach, voter support, beyond Arlington, and AYPs will be deferred to the next meeting. But we'll see what time we have, and appreciate those folks for being generous with their time and letting us focus on the main conversation. Next slide. Yeah. So the next thing we need to do today is method of nomination for county board. If the incumbent was elected by a primary previously, the method of nomination has to be primary unless he or she consents to some other form of nomination. Our returning county board member, Matt D. Franti, has chosen primary as his method of nomination. So this is largely just a performance vote, but the bylaws say we need to adopt a policy. So do I have a motion to choose primary as method of nomination? And sir, tell me your name again. Evan, right. Evan, do I have a second? Paul? So hard with math. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? Doesn't matter what color card you have now. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Primary, congratulations, Matt, wherever you are, primary is your method of nomination. What is that? Oh. If you have a light blue Toyota, your lights are on. ZWP 9408. A light blue Toyota ZWP 9408, your lights are on. All right, next slide, please. So this is a great part of the evening. We have two candidates that we want to announce tonight. Matt D. Franti for County Board and Victoria Vera Singh for Virginia's 8th District. I believe Matt is first on the list. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to present. I think Matt is going to have someone introduce him. If we have a timer, and we do, introducers can have up to 1 minute. Matt gets 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here, and I will eagerly accept any opportunity to praise my husband's many talents and accomplishments. So speaking as a wife for a quick moment, I will say that Matt was a very easy man to fall in love with. He's a man composed of both ambition and idealism, confidence and humility. And these qualities make him a wonderful husband, but they also make him a wonderful leader and public servant. So perhaps one of my most favorite things about Matt is his ability to make everyone better. Early on when we were dating, he somehow persuaded both me and his mother to travel with him to Iowa in February to caucus for his chosen presidential candidate. So I don't think it was exactly what I had imagined when I was picturing our first romantic trip together to knock on doors. But I'm so glad I went because it's exposed to me so early in our relationship so much about Matt's character. So the goodness in him is contagious. So I'm delighted he's running for re-election and that he's chosen to share his time and his talent with all of us for another 4 years. So please, delighted to announce my husband, Matt T. Francis.
Thank you very much, Brooke. Many of you may know I got married a little later. I was 47, so you can imagine how thrilled I was she said yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Arlington Democrats. Over the past 1,128 days, I've had the honor of working for you and for this community. I worked on issues from our judicial system's mental health docket to affordable housing at Barcroft Apartments. I've supported additional funding for our schools to meet growing enrollment in 2019 and to help fund outdoor lunch in 2021. I've set up a task force to work on hunger, helped pass an ambitious community energy plan, approved a solar farm, gained Amazon's partnership with our carpenters union, and helped fund 2 rounds of small business grants. Perhaps most important of all, I served as chair last year as we worked our way through the challenges COVID presented and continues to present. As chair, I ordered the curfew on January 6th. I helped pass the collective bargaining and prevailing wage ordinances. I voted to put subpoena power in the Community Oversight Board. I also worked with so many of you to change the logo and the name from Lee Highway to Langston Boulevard. I held numerous hearings that not everybody in here may have watched about the Serrano because it was a problem and continues to be. To bring attention to the problems there, I advocated and communicated to try to get our community to address the conditions, and I also worked really hard to get us to the highest level of vaccinations for 1 dose in the state of Virginia. We're right at the top on everything. That's a credit to you and our community. I won't claim that in my time as chair or on the board, I was perfect. We didn't achieve everything I wanted, and I'm sure I would do things differently in some areas. But I believe I worked hard. I sought to serve everyone in our community, and we made progress, and we accelerated some of that progress. Tonight, I am thrilled to announce I'm running for re-election and respectfully, I'm asking for your vote, and I'm going to try and earn your vote and your support over the coming months. I want to talk about 2 things. First, where we stand right now as a community and what I want to accomplish if I'm re-elected. First, where we stand. We are tired from COVID, bone tired. Young Arlingtonians are eager to reclaim the lives that all young people everywhere always want. They just want to hang out. Parents are exhausted from trying to meet the social and emotional needs of their children. And millennials want to go out without having to worry and have a drink. Seniors, not all, but most, seniors are ready to see their grandchildren and reconnect with their friends in person and definitely no longer interested in Zoom. Many of us are also tired of the inadequate pace of progress on racial equity. Arlington's outcomes on criminal justice, education, housing, and economic development are not improving nearly fast enough, and they're not consistent with the image we have of ourselves as a great community. Progress on climate change is way too slow. I want to accelerate our efforts, do more and do better. I also think we have to remember that we have to protect Arlington from the policies that have started to come from Richmond. Removing the mask mandate is a bad idea for our kids, and I support Arlington Public Schools' decision to question that executive order. I want to better protect tenants in the Serrano and build more affordable home ownership. I want to partner with our schools to address the learning losses to COVID and make our schools the envy of Northern Virginia. I want to implement the reforms we have begun of our policing through the Community Oversight Board and work to start building trust with our Black and Latino communities. I want to implement collective bargaining, and I want to provide focused leadership. If you give me the chance, if you give me the honor, I'll make sure we have progressive, compassionate, listening, tested leadership that moves us from where we are as a community to where we want to be. Please take a look at the flyer on your seats to see what I've done, my priorities, and a list of Arlingtonians who are supporting our campaign. Thank you so much for being here tonight. All you do on behalf of Arlington Democrats and all you do on behalf of our community. I look forward to listening to your concerns, sharing my ideas, working on the issues you care about, and earning your support for re-election to the County Board of the Commonwealth. Thank you.
And everybody, please remember to speak directly into the mic so our folks at home can hear anything you have to say. Our next candidate, Victoria, here is saying, needs no introduction. You haven't introduced her yet. She needs no introduction, but she's going to get one. She's the amazing former vice chair of our outreach group. Please, everyone, welcome up Laura Kepler.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Kepler, and I'm not married to Victoria Singh, but I have been her best friend since we were 5 years old growing up here in Arlington. And she is an incredible person. She is a hard worker and a dedicated individual, and she genuinely cares about people. And I was excited to quit my job and join on as her campaign manager, which she decided to run, because I think that it's now 2022 and it is time that we have a woman represent Virginia's 8th in Congress. So without further ado, here is Victoria Singh.
Thank you so much, Laura. You know, as I look around this room tonight, I see people who care about their community. Each and every one of you showed up tonight, and for those of you that are online, because we want to create a community that is rich and thriving and has opportunity for all of us. I learned about how to serve my community from my parents. My mom is from Ecuador in South America, and my dad was born to Punjabi Sikh refugees in Bangkok, Thailand. They're immigrants who work minimum wage jobs here in Arlington. And it was a struggle sometimes to make it to the end of the day, to the end of the week, to the end of the pay cycle. But throughout it all, my parents taught me to work hard, to stand up tall, well, metaphorically, and to strive for a better future. When I was a young girl, my parents couldn't afford childcare. My mom would bring me to the salon where she worked as a manicurist. And let me tell you, you gain a whole new level of respect and awareness when you see your mom work so hard for a series of $2 tips that end up putting dinner on the table. And if any of you have been to a salon, maybe both men and females, you know there's a lot of waiting time at a salon. And as a curious young girl, I would use that opportunity to talk to the clients. These were lawyers and doctors, people working in the political sphere. And it was through them that I perceived the existence of a larger world, a world that was bigger than the one that I was living in. But what would get me from here to there? Education. I hit those books, I studied as hard as I could, and I landed me a full-ride scholarship to Stanford University. After graduating from my bachelor's and master's degree, and after working for Senator Feinstein, I started working in the tech industry. After a few years, I was sitting in my home and I'm looking around and I'm realizing it hits me. I am the American dream. I did it. I did what my parents had always hoped would be possible. And as I started talking to more families from Virginia's 8th, as I started working at Barcroft Elementary, I talked to people and families like yours and mine. Every person, every family has their version of the American dream. But this dream has this warped, distorted qualities that I escape dreams had. Something here is not right. Income inequality is growing. Our climate change is growing at an incredible rate. Housing is becoming increasingly out of reach. The American dream, our dream, is becoming harder and harder for us to access. How can something be ours, but not for us? I am running for U.S. Congress to represent the community that raised me because I believe in giving hard workers a chance. I believe in creating an equal opportunity for our whole community. I want to expand the electorate so we bring more people into our political process. I'm running for Congress because I know that the policies that we push for and we advocate for today will have a drastic impact on us and our communities for decades. I'm running for Congress and I'm asking you as the daughter of this district and the daughter of our communities to give me a chance, to speak to my professional and my lived experience, to speak to the needs and the desires of so many of our community members. I'm ready to make the American dream accessible for all of us. Before I close, I want to say I know we have a lot of things to talk about today. I believe that we always have a choice. We just don't always have the chance to make it. But this June 21st, every one of us will have that choice. Thank you so much.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Victoria, and Matthew Ferranti. Thank you both so much. It takes a lot of courage to run for something, and we've got so many great people in Arlington. We are fortunate. Next. Thank you for those nice slides, too. All right. So next up on the agenda, our 8th District Chair is going to speak to our HCD convention and state party reorg. And then we have a voting item. We need to approve our part of our rules in reference to that process. Margot, please come up.
I'm a little shorter, so this is a little different. That's one of the disadvantages of always being shorter. But I am a proud Arlingtonian. Margot Horner, and I'm proud to serve as your 8th District Chair. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about the reorganization of the 8th District Democratic Committee. Right now, throughout Virginia, all congressional districts, all 11 of them are undergoing reorganization. And our district convention will be March 5 at 10 a.m. Got to arrive by 9:30. Get in by 9:45 for check-in, because we got to hold this on time and it's got to be punctual. I'll say that from every single congressional district throughout Virginia, votes will be cast for respective candidates who are running for Central Committee, a total of 20 members for each congressional district. So that is just something that's on the plate. Some congressional districts begin their district conventions in the last 2 weeks of March, in the last 2 weeks of February, and ours is March 5. So historically, the reorganization of the Central Committee has occurred in a gubernatorial year. It had to be kicked over to this year in 2022 due to the fact that we had a pandemic and the census was running late. And it is occurring, our reorganization is being worked on during January, February, and March. The Central Committee's reorganization is similar to the delegate selection process the party ran during the 2020 presidential election. The 8th Congressional District's current elected members, which I think you should be aware of and know of, from Arlington are Steve Baker, Charlie Conrad, Senator Barbara Favola, Greg Hines, myself, Maureen Markham, Kim Phillip, Matt Royer, and Jason Rylander. Arlington's additional party leaders on the 8th District are as follows. DNC members, Dave Lightman, Atina Omar. Morning Coffee is president of Virginia Young Democrats, and we're proud to have the Virginia Young Democrats on board our district committee. But we have two people representing the Virginia Democrats. The second is Mike Eminger, who is the Virginia Democrats National Committee representative. Thank you. Furthermore, we have Jonathan Drumgoole, who is chair of the Latino Caucus, and we have Praveen Menon, who is chair of the Asian American Caucus. And I believe Praveen is here. 8th Congressional District adopted a call on January 17, which sets out the specifics. That is located on the 8th District website. There will be a reference to a slide a little bit later to that specific location. Arlington Delegates. And we're now going to talk about those delegates and what you can do to become a delegate. Arlington Delegates to the 8th District Virtual Convention will elect 4 male members and 3 female members to the Central Committee on the 8th District. What are our responsibilities? I bet people have asked that question, and I wanted to address that. The primary purpose of the 8th District Committee is to elect a Democratic congressional member to represent the 8th Congressional District. Plus, the 8th Congressional District has control of all matters relating to the nomination process of the Democratic congressional candidates. It's important to know because you got to file on time, file early, and then there's a filing deadline, and there's certain papers that you got to do. So it's just not, it happens by magic. There's work you've got to do. Plus, you got to do some petitions. That's pretty important too. The 8th District has the responsibility of oversight to see that all city and county committees within the 8th District are performing their duties. The committee does the task of elevating issues facing the community, the district, and the state, and may do so by resolutions. District committee members are also voting members of the Democratic Party of Virginia Central Committee, the highest governing body for the state Democratic Party. Each month, 8th District members report on political developments within their local committees, including voter registration and voter protection, and share best practices with local Democratic committees. The 8th Congressional District is the proud sponsor of the Kennedy King Dinner. Democrats come together from across Northern Virginia and the Commonwealth to celebrate the legacies of Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy, and to advance the Democratic Party's mission for peace, justice, and equality. The entire 8th District team sells tickets and tables to support the Kennedy King Dinner. The 8th District has 12 monthly meetings, 4 special meetings, and 4 quarterly meetings, usually in Richmond, but now virtual. So this is something you need to know. We do not get any of our expenses paid for. This is all volunteer. Now, I'd like to ask that the next slide be advanced, please. We're going to focus now on the Virginia Dems organization structure. All right. You see at the top, party chair, that's our CEO. There's a steering committee there. The steering committee is really what's called an executive committee. Some would call it a board. Below it, you see a listing of 12 caucuses. Those are all chaired by individuals, and those individuals are on the steering committee, along with the party chair and 7 party officers. Then you see the beginning in the middle, you see a central committee. These folks are involved with the central committee, as is the steering committee, and then our congressional district committees are all members of that central committee. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so you see 2 here. Chairs of congressional district committees are on the steering committee. I'd like to also say beneath that you see city county committees, magisterial ward chairs, and precinct captains. There are 133 local Democratic committees. And now let's go to slide 2, please. I appreciate that. Next, the next slide really is focusing your attention on the fact that the 8th District Convention is on March 5, 2022, 10 a.m. But you got to be there to check in at 9:45. Ask you to arrive promptly. It's better to get things moving because I know y'all are busy and you want to get onto some Saturday chores or whatever you want to do at your pleasure. Slide 3, please advance. All right. This is particularly important. I'd like to ask you to consider signing up to be a delegate to the district convention. That gives you a right to vote for any of the candidates who are running in Arlington. We have 4 men, 3 women that you will select and vote for. So you can be an observer and just watch, but you might prefer voting. Both of those entities you have to file for by February 25 at the famous hour of 5 p.m. If you want to be a candidate for the Congressional District Committee and on the Central Committee, you have to file by February 25, 5 p.m. Filings have to be received by the DPVA by 5 p.m. on February 25. I have the link here, which shows you exactly where on the 8th District website, our reorg page, you can find the entire call. Look it over. There's a lot of other information that I have not covered at this time. But with regard to the delegates that run, we have seats for at least 213 delegates in Arlington. So I would encourage you to file. All right, the final slide that I have relates to resolutions. For a resolution to be considered by myself or the 8th District State Resolutions Committee, Matt Warrior, you must submit a resolution to either of us by 5 p.m. on February 18th, okay? All resolutions must be submitted in a preferred electronic format. Mentioned up here precisely, Word doc /docx as an attachment. That's what we want. And I sure hope you'll deliver on that. If this is a report of the Resolutions Committee, it shall be voted in whole on the same ballot provided by the DPVA. So you'll be able to vote on your ballot with the DPVA for Central Committee members from Arlington, again, 4 men and 3 women. And you'll be able to vote for the resolutions report, up or down. Then, if the resolutions report is adopted, by golly, the district chair has to do something about that. They've got to get it into the state party by Monday, March 14, 2022. I thank you for your consideration. I know you've had a busy night, and I will move forward now with our chair, Steve Baker. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Margo. Yeah, the district convention and the state party reorg is a really big, important part of what we do. We got one question real quick.
I had a question for Margo about the voting at the CDA convention. I
Okay.
believe it's open for 24 hours, maybe. That's correct?
That is explained in the call itself, unless, I have to say one thing, unless there's any change by the state party. But I would hope they would have informed me by this time.
The question I have is that during that 24-hour period, do people vote once, or are they allowed to change their vote during that period per the call or PBA policy?
I will consult right now with the person who worked on the call closely,
Check.
diligently, and over an incredible amount of time.
Check the call, yeah. We'll get that answer for you. I want to bring up Howard Salati, who is going to take us really quickly through our next voting item.
Thank you, Steve. So Margo alluded to the fact that any of you, any Arlington Democrat, can be a delegate or observer at the 8th Congressional District Convention. So the question becomes, how do you get to be a delegate or an observer? Well, you do have to file a form. Margo mentioned that the form has to be filed no later than 5 p.m. on February 25th. That form, which is an electronic form that goes directly to our party folks in Richmond, there's a link to that in the materials that Steve sent out actually today around noon, describing this meeting. So the 8th Congressional District, by the way, I recognize this stuff is kind of arcane, but the 8th Congressional District has allocated to us the Arlington Democrats the right to have up to 213 delegates at the 8th Congressional District Convention. So everybody in the room can be a delegate. The expectation is we may not necessarily get 213 people to sign up to be a delegate, but hopefully we will. If we actually get more than 213 people actually to sign up to be a delegate, then we have to figure out, well, who gets to be the 213? Well, that means we have to hold a caucus. The call and rules for that caucus, which would occur 4 weeks from today at our next monthly general meeting, the call and rules for that caucus were attached as a document that was a PDF to Steve's email from yesterday that he sent out around me. It's been attached to prior emails as well. I'm sure every voting member here has read in detail the call and rules. Because the call and rules govern our caucus, if we have to have one, if more than 213 people show up or sign up to be a delegate, because we have to have call and rules to govern that caucus, which, as I said, if we had to have it, would occur 4 weeks from tonight. We need to, as the voting members here, need to approve that set of call and rules. So we actually have in place what we need to conduct a caucus 4 weeks from tonight if more than 213 people sign up to be a delegate to the 8th Congressional District Convention. So unless Steve, you want to take it from here in terms of conducting a vote?
Howard, isn't it true that traditionally more than 213 sign up and twist a few arms?
So that's a good point. So Bob, that's right. We do try to be practical. Bob makes a good point. We do try to twist arms. And what he means in part by that is, let's assume we've got like 215, just to take a simple example. But there might be other jurisdictions, some of our fellow jurisdictions that are also part of the 8th Congressional District that may not have enough people running for delegate. Like Alexandria or Falls Church. So we might twist in my hypothetical those 2 extra people, might twist their arms to instead run for delegate from one of the other jurisdictions that's within the 8th Congressional District. The other practical aspect of that, of course, is that further lessens the need for us to actually have a caucus, 4 weeks from tonight. But thank you, Bob. That's a good point.
Thank you so much, Howard, and thank you again, Margot. Once again, this went out last week to everybody, so hopefully you had a chance to read it. Could I get a motion from the...
I move to approve the caucus rules.
Do I have a second? And Bob Platt making the motion and Liz Morgan making the second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have caucus rules. All right, super. So, and next slide. All right, perfect. We've reached the main event of the evening, and we're going to move to the school board endorsement process conversation. And again, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Let me get this back in there. I think everyone standing in the room tonight or sitting in the room tonight, I think is here for the same reason. Because we recognize that Arlington Public Schools are one of the most important policy matters in Arlington County, in any county, in the state, in any state. We care deeply about our schools and the start in life that it provides the kids in our community. We may have different views on the process of how we select a school board member, but I just want everyone to keep in mind as we begin this conversation that we all do care very deeply about the topic, and I hope everyone will be respectful and actively listen to all the other speakers in the room. I do want to take a minute and thank our school board for the hard work that they've been doing. think they've been taking very thoughtful steps that reflect our democratic values, respect, inclusion, and a commitment to a great curriculum and education. They're working to keep teachers, kids, and families safe by leading a legal effort to push back on Governor Youngkin's dangerous anti-mask mandate. They have shown strong support for our transgender students. Led Arlington's first school name-changing effort. And are working on fair pay for everybody through collective bargaining for our teachers and staff, as well as project labor agreements for the people who build and fix our schools. Thank you so much. Typically, we vote on our usual caucus rules back in December, but last December, I think we all recognized that there was a lot of interest building around whether or not we should have a process, or if we did, what that process should look like. I want to say that I'm very grateful to my predecessors, Jill Cayazzo and Maggie Davis, for putting together the SWOT process that allowed our committee to analyze our own caucus process in terms of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on a variety of options. They really left Mike and I in a good position in January to take the next step and create a series of sessions where people could become familiar with that document as well as share their own ideas. The resulting documents are floating around in your chairs and I think available in the room if you need them tonight. So all the ideas that I'm talking about with you are reasons why we're here. But there's one more reason why we're here, and it's probably the most important reason. And that's to say we're here tonight to listen to each other because it is the right thing to do. So with that, I'm going to welcome up our Deputy Chair, Mike Heminger, who is kind of going to go through some of the procedure for you, and we'll get the conversation started. Thank you, Mike.
Hey, what's up, Democrats? How's it going? My name is Mike Heminger. I'm your new Deputy Chair. I go by Big Mike, or you can call me Mike Heminger, whatever you're comfortable with. I do have a couple remarks. I'm going to try to turn my computer, and I'm going to have to ask for forgiveness from Lisa here. So is it okay if I stop here?
Yeah.
Okay. And do I know I'm going to take this off real quick? All right, I do have a couple remarks before we get into it. Before I do, I wanted to just do a quick moment of silence. Yesterday, we lost one in our community. His name is Paul Thompson. He died in our jail, so we could just do a brief moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. My condolences to all of his loved ones. All right, so do we have any first-time guests here tonight? Any first-time visitors? Thank you all so much for coming out. I know it takes a lot of courage. Appreciate it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can be doing. I know there's a lot of other obstacles that come up, childcare being one of them. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. As we look around the room tonight, we can see that there's many of us that deeply care about our education system. I want to acknowledge a few things before we start the discussion. The new administration has been in office for less than a month, but we've tried to move as swiftly as we can in these first couple of weeks, despite being about 90 days behind on the process. For the first time ever, the committee will vote on whether or not to hold an endorsement process at all. That's the first for this committee. It has not happened before. For the first time ever, we've had a series of listening sessions, and we know that we could have done a better job advertising those, and we know that one of those sessions also conflicted with the school board meeting. And you have my commitment. We will definitely take that feedback into consideration as we continue our term. For the first time ever, the NAACP has also weighed in on this issue. I do not take that lightly. For the very first time as well, the newly formed Black Leaders of Arlington are also with us. Do we have anyone from Black Leaders of Arlington here tonight? Thank you for being here. Anybody here from the NAACP? Thank you for being here tonight. It's important as elected representatives of the larger county that we hear directly from the community. That's why we're here tonight. Several new ideas have been introduced that we've never heard before in recent weeks, as well as a host of other important discussion topics to consider. Throughout these last few weeks, and as a result of many hundreds, and I do mean hundreds of hours of discussions, we've reached a point where we're going to finally cast a vote. Tonight and tomorrow, a group of people will decide whether or not this organization will hold an endorsement caucus. There are two sign-up sheets at the start of the meeting. I've heard from the Sergeant at Arms, there's actually a little bit of room, so if anyone hasn't signed up yet, there's a couple slots left. So go and see the guy with the nice red tie back there and get you signed up. All right, so we'll alternate speakers from the pro and the con using the order of sign up, realizing that people may want to put their best speakers forward. Any speaker may yield their time, which is 2 minutes, to any other person, but they may not split their time. Once the hour is over, we'll wrap up the conversation, and all members of the committee that are eligible to vote at that time will receive a digital ballot. We'll kick things off with the flip of the coin. The Sergeant at Arms will call the first two speakers. We'll flip the coin and we'll go ahead and get started. The last thing I want to say is, I know I don't have to remind this group, I just wanted to go over a couple common ground rules. So please do not interrupt the speaker. We're all really passionate about this issue tonight. Whoever has the microphone, let's allow them to completely give us their thoughts and their opinions. Let's not interrupt them. I want to encourage everyone to be open and honest. Avoid nothing. Let's face everything tonight. Take space, make space is something I like to use in a lot of my meetings. So it just means be willing to participate in the conversation. Like I said, we have a couple slots left if you want to speak, and let's not dominate the conversation. I want to encourage you to use your pronouns that you feel comfortable, and also please respect the time limit. It's been limited to 1 hour, and we want to make sure that we hear from as many people as possible. So if you go over your 2 minutes, it means someone at the end of the list may not be able to speak, okay? So with that, I would like to bring up our Sergeant at Arms to call the first two speakers. Thank you, everybody.
All right, for the noes, we have Dave Schutz and Mary Glass. And for the yeses, we have Barbara Cannon and Monique LeGrady. And if the speakers can line up here in the first one, coming up to the microphone. Mike, did you do the point?
Go ahead.
All right, we're gonna take order. Why don't you call? All right, she said heads. Who's parliamentarian? That is tails. Tails has it. Big shoes. Big shoes. We did a coin toss. I don't think we go with Barbara or Monique. Is that right?
Yes, go first.
Barbara Cannon, please go first.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Arlington Democrats. First, let me say a huge thank you to you all for the tremendous support you provided to me in my 8 years on the school board. Thank you. I hope that doesn't detract from my time. Today, it is more urgent than ever that we continue to have a democratically endorsed school board members in Arlington. Republicans have shown their hands. In Richmond, they are openly promoting a public school system that serves the haves better than the have-nots. We Democrats cannot let them succeed. In Arlington, the school board is moving forward a progressive Democratic agenda. We are one of the only school boards in Virginia to remove SROs from our schools. We were one of the first to fully support our transgender students. We were early leaders in saying it is time to remove Confederate names from our buildings. We adopted an inclusive school calendar that recognizes world holidays. We've installed solar power and built green schools. We're working on collective bargaining. We've prioritized mental health, approved our first equity policy, and are building toward a culturally balanced, inclusive curriculum that is rigorous and high expectations for all students. In 2014, I canvassed every precinct in Arlington for the Democratic endorsement. The caucus process is tough, it's competitive, and it results in an endorsed candidate who knows this community and has proven to hold our democratic values. We would not have the progressive record of accomplishments I just listed without the Democratic Caucus. Let's keep moving Arlington forward by keeping the caucus. Thank you.
I'm Dave Schutz. I have been unhappy with the caucus process for some years because, and I think there are going to be many people speaking on both sides of this issue. The main point I want to make is the number of participants is really small. This is not a small d democratic process. This is a process in which we express great pride if we get 6,000 people to vote for a county of 230,000. We should find a way to make the choice, the actual choice of the school board members happen at the time of the general election with a far larger electorate. That's all I'll say for now. Thank you.
Yeah, hold it nice and close.
Okay, I can do that for you. Hi, everybody, I'm Monique O'Grady, and I just completed serving 4 years in the Arlington School Board. While the Commonwealth School Board candidates run without party designation, make no mistake, conservatives who lost the White House are laser focused on using their resources to target school board elections and fund candidates to perpetuate their ideals. Virginia was a test case for this. It's happening in neighboring districts, and there is a thinly veiled attempt happening right here in Arlington. We must remain strong and united. We want to ensure that long-range issues that we care about as Democrats are not dismantled by values that we as Democrats don't believe in. This conversation in our Arlington Democrat House must be had in the reality of the moment, not the hard feelings of the past. Keeping an Arlington Democrat endorsement is key to ensuring that our supporters understand who we believe will advance our values, especially when well-funded opponents are on the attack. We must ensure that our caucus is accessible to the widest array of candidates interested in serving. This might include changing our endorsement process. We should also continue advocating for the Hatch Act to be amended, but the Democratic caucus should not be ripped away to address this issue. The Hatch Act battle should be fought where it belongs, in the federal government. The effort to do away with this caucus would be better placed by looking for ways to support future diverse leaders who are serving students now who may want to run in the future. Our affinity groups can help. We should also find ways to make the job one that anyone can afford to do. The school board time-wise is like a full-time job, a second full-time job that is most realistic when you have financial privilege. In short, to protect our values and support our children, we must keep our enforcement process in place. The Hatch Act should be modernized, and we must gear up for the fight against our values, which is coming to school board races locally, across Virginia, and the nation. The results will impact Arlington's future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Glass, and I am a lifelong Democrat to start with a big D.
There's not a button that I'm.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mary Glass. I'm a lifelong Democrat with a big D, and proud of it. I'm also a 43-year resident of North Arlington and a former parent of a Drew School student. So I feel big ties to this community. I also was appointed as a member of the Drew Model School renaming to the Dr. Charles R. Drew Elementary School. Very proud of that. I want to speak tonight really endorsing what Matt had to say. We really need to start to make some fundamental changes and move forward very aggressively on equity. And for that reason, I support the NAACP request to abolish the school board endorsement caucus. The NAACP has put forward facts that show that participation from South Arlington is much less than North Arlington. And my experience at both at Drew and from observing government in Arlington is that the voices from minority communities are muffled and action is slow for the commitments that they're looking for. So equal representation has to start at the local level, not just in the Senate in Washington. We, big D Democrats, need to be introspective about achieving systemic democratic practices. And this will be hard, it won't be easy, but it's worth putting the work in now to find a process that will include as many people as possible. Partisan election goals, maintaining a strict democratic slate may be admirable for some of the values, but I think some conversation and new ideas will also be beneficial. Thank you.
Next up, Barbara Keller, and then it'll be Zakia Worthy, then it'll be Howard Zlotke, then it'll be Julius Spain Sr.
Go ahead and grab it. Can you reach that? One second. I'll just take this down.
Yeah, you got it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Corey Barton. I'm the past chair of the Arlington Delegates Inclusion and Equity Committee. It's great to be with you. Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important topic. And thank you to everyone on both sides for making your voices heard on this important subject. The past couple of years have presented unprecedented challenges for our students, our parents, and our school board members. And I'm not just talking about COVID. We've all seen the chaotic school board meetings, the death threats, and even adults harassing kids who are just trying to learn. We have also seen Republicans willing to use race to divide our communities and try to convince us that they should not teach our students about history. And now we have a Republican governor in Richmond who fueled the flames of division and has set up a tip line for people to harass, demean, and intimidate our students and our educators. In the face, Democrats cannot be silent. In the face of unprecedented attacks on our students and educators, we must know where our school board candidates stand. That means we need to know which candidate Democrats support. If we don't know which candidates Democrats support, then the overwhelmingly Democratic voters of Arlington could accidentally elect a conservative who is trying to replicate the Youngkin playbook in Arlington. We must have a process to guard against this. While there is room for improvements, right now, the best process is a Democratic caucus to endorse a candidate. Thank you to those who have lent their voices to this conversation. For our students and our educators, I urge Arlington Dems to save the caucus and vote yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zakia Worthy. The word in Arlington right now is equity, but I want to speak to you about a different word, reciprocity. We have been hearing over and over again that this is the best way for students, more specifically disadvantaged students, to have their voices heard. But I pose to you that when we have about 99% of our school board members coming through this process, and we're still dealing with a 20-year gap, then either what we're saying is Black kids and brown kids are inherently not as smart, can't do, aren't able, or there's something wrong with the process in terms of who we're selecting to make those decisions, and it hasn't been a priority. While everyone has been talking here tonight about all the great things that the school board and the county has done, we haven't said the obvious, that students of color, Black and brown, are still behind. And that Arlington Dems, just having a meeting down in Drew Elementary, does not make for equity. This needs to change. We have said over and over again, this process disenfranchises us and in turn disenfranchises our students. So it's that old adage that, you can't pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining. We're tired of you telling us that it's raining. We know it's actually pee. This is not the best way. And if it is, then you wouldn't have to use draconian tactics of actually signing a pledge to make someone think that it's the best thing ever. If you believe that you have the best candidate to put forward, then there doesn't need to be a caucus. You can run them in a primary like everyone else, and they will stand out for their values. But we have said over and over again, and I just want to remind you, and some of you are shaking your heads, that reciprocity as well. Black women are the ones who are the backbone of the Democratic Party. You all lost last year because we didn't show up after you stood on and jumped over two qualified Black women. Let that be a lesson.
Good, but we're not. So I'm having too much fun holding up the signs, so I'm going to yield my 2 minutes to our great school board member, Mary Goodell.
Good evening, Arlington Democrats. I am speaking to you tonight as one of the two most recent participants in the school board caucus. I am smiling at the other end in the back of the room. While I was campaigning, I got many questions about why I was participating in a caucus. I took those questions to heart and I investigated this fall by doing a research project I assigned myself about how other localities were endorsing or not their school board candidates, and I wrote up and learned what I shared. I shared that with leadership of the Arlington Dems, and I shared it with other community groups. The conclusions that I reached when I carefully thought about this fall are, number one, that I think there is value in a Democratic endorsement for reasons that others have already said. And I concluded that a caucus is, generally speaking, and I want to stress that, generally speaking, a more public and inclusive process than the alternatives that other localities in Virginia use, which include just sort of a meeting of the leaders of a party or the steering committee. And I would wager that that's not what we want in Arlington. I would be supportive of continuing this caucus, but only if there are significant reforms. And I have outlined my ideas for that and shared that with the community. You can find it on social media if you haven't seen it. I'm a little bit concerned, frankly, about having to vote yes or no tonight before we have a commitment from the party leadership that there will be significant reform. I think this change and reform in the caucus is important for two reasons. One is we have to make this process more inclusive and representative and function less like a primary. This is not supposed to be a primary. This is supposed to be an endorsement. Also, because if we vote to continue the caucus as is, we will simply be further dividing our local Democratic Party at a time when we really need to pull together. The caucus, as it stands now, if it does not change, is pulling this local party apart when we have other important and urgent work to do. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, good evening, Arlington Democrats. Many of you know me, and you're probably going to say, what is JD Spain going to say here tonight? But many of you here, I support it. And in full transparency, I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I'm not a part of any affinity group. I'm a part of the NAACP, the oldest and boldest civil rights organization in America. All right? That's the second time I heard us referenced as an affinity group, and it's starting to bother me a little bit. I heard words earlier tonight about progressive, passionate. I think that came from you, Matt. But I'm also hearing a bit of fear-mongering as a leader. And all this stuff about equity, inclusion, accessibility. I work in a Fortune 500 company where I do this every day of the week. And what I'm seeing, some of the faces, some of the shy remarks, it doesn't look like we're trying to build an inclusive culture here. We are dividing our people, Mary. And if you don't be careful, you're going to watch out in 2022, in 2024, and you're going to further divide this community. We know for certain that everybody is not playing ball at the caucus. Everyone's not involved. We know that for a fact. We know everyone is not involved in the primary, but we know people show up at the general elections. 30 seconds left. I can go all night. You saw our letter. All I urge you to do is to do some self-reflection as an organization and as leaders. This is a difficult choice. It's not easy, but this is a time to test the courage and fortitude of everyone in this who's going to vote and those online. Are you truly a Democrat? I can read you the Democratic playbook. Some of us in here aren't and keeping into it, and that's a fact. But thank you for your time. I wish you the best. God bless you. Stay safe. Get all your COVID shots. The Sergeant at Arms is coming to take me away, y'all.
All right, next up will be Sharon Baghdadi. Okay, and then followed by Sarah now will be John Capel, followed by Carol Burnett, followed by Monique Bryant.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Lanford and I have lived in Arlington for about 5 years. And I support having an endorsement process for a school board candidate. As I'm sure we all know, local candidates for school board and county board are not identified by party affiliation on the ballot in November. And each November, voters rely on Arlington Dems sample ballot to identify Democratic candidates for those offices. I appreciate that current state law is designed to keep school board races nonpartisan, but I think we only need to look at the educational culture wars in Loudoun County and recent actions by our new governor to know that school boards are indeed political. The governor's new mask optional mandate throws Virginia into this national debate over masking in schools, and his support for censoring literature is very concerning to me. I want to be sure at the end of the day that our school board is composed of Democrats who share our beliefs, who will stand up to the governor, and who will ensure the safety of our students, teachers, and school staff. Don't get me wrong, the endorsement process isn't perfect, and I'm really grateful the NAACP has raised their concerns about Arlington Delegates' traditional endorsement process. Chief among them turnout disparities. I believe we should, as the NAACP has recommended, thoughtfully and strategically reform our caucus process to address these concerns and build in improvements. But until we do that, I think the dangers of not endorsing candidate for school board outweigh the benefits in this current political climate. Again, at the end of the day, our #1 goal here in Arlington Dems is to increase the number of elected Democrats at the county level. Without an endorsement process, Arlington Dems will not have a designated candidate for school board on the ballot in November, leaving low information Democratic voters who often rely on our sample ballot without guidance from the party. While the current endorsement process is very far from perfect, I think it's the best option we have right now until we can achieve a more equitable outcome. And I urge voting members of Arlington Dems to support an endorsement process for school board. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Kaufhold. I am a former co-chair of the Advisory Council on Instruction on Public Schools, former chair of Career and Tech Ed, Citizens Advisory Committee, former liaison to the SOL Health Citizens Advisory Committee, former liaison to the Math Citizens Advisory Committee, former liaison to the Social Studies Citizens Advisory Committee. Lots of years volunteering in our public schools. I'm opposed to the Democratic Party endorsing school board candidates because I believe it disenfranchises candidates of color and is problematic for federal employees. We're stronger when we're more diverse, and the current process has made us less diverse.
I am
way too short. Good evening, everybody. I rise today to encourage you to vote in favor of keeping an endorsement and encourage everyone here today. Did I just turn it off? Sorry, my bad. Okay, let's try that one again. My bad. Good evening, everyone. I rise today to encourage you to vote in favor of keeping an endorsement and to encourage everyone here today, party members and the public, to engage productively in improving it. About a year ago, during my swearing in, I told you that I was optimistic that in a few years we'd be looking at a district that was closer to seeing every student in every classroom by need and by name. Today, even in the midst of a coordinated and systematic attack on public education, I am confident that we are on the right track. In just the last year that I've been on the board, we've accomplished so much. We have worked with our incredible superintendent and our predominantly BIPOC cabinet to do the following. We have removed SROs from our schools. We have introduced the district's first ever policy on the education of English learners. We have revamped our discipline strategies to seek to restorative justice. We have begun the implementation of collective bargaining, and we have done all of this in the middle of a pandemic while recuperating lost learning. Is the work finished? Absolutely not. The reality of systems change is that it is slow moving, infuriatingly so. Trust me, if I could find a single investment, intervention, or solution that would magically make our achievement and opportunity gaps go away, that could undo decades of ingrained racism, sexism, ableism, and allow every single child in APS to thrive, we would have already be implementing it. But I want to remind all of us that the work that my colleagues and I have been able to do is because we are standing on the shoulders of giants. At the time of my swearing in, I became the third Latina, the fourth woman of color, and the fifth person of color to serve on the board since the board shifted to elections, all of whom received the endorsement of the Arlington Democrats. It is because of them that we can do the work now. Now, does this mean that the caucus in its current form is the right thing to proceed? No. I have spoken at length and for years with many of you about my ideas about how to improve it. And I actually implemented some of them while on my campaign. So I invite you into that conversation to improve the caucus going forward. Thank you.
I'll just call up the next 4 names while he's coming up here. Elizabeth Morgan, and then Sonia Rosen, and then Laura Saul Edwards, and then Jamie Abrams.
Good evening. My name is Wilma Jones-Kilgo. I'm a 4th-generation resident of Arlington County, and I'm a civic activist. And I'm the daughter of civic activists because 63 years ago today, my brother Michael was one of 4 kids to integrate schools in Arlington County. No, I need my 2 minutes to do it when I'm finished because I have a lot to say tonight. I graduated from school in Arlington in 1977, and I have a whole lot of friends, Black and brown and learning disabled friends, who graduated, but they weren't able to go to college, or if they ended up going to Nova, they had to take remedial courses. Many of them worked and worked for the school system in extended day or in the lunchroom because Arlington didn't give them the education that they deserved, and they still aren't getting it today. My son graduated from Yorktown in 2016. Many of his friends work at Harris Teeter. They work at Rite Aid because Arlington didn't give them the education that they deserved. So I am here to say the school board endorsement process needs to end. Let's make it easy. On your sample ballot, put a D by everybody. Put it on the onus of the people who are running to reach out to us, to give us what they think they can do for us. How are we going to ever get someone bold who is able to address these systemic disparities? We're never going to get them because they always have to be the middle of the road, okay? We want bold, bold leadership in order to take Arlington where it needs to be. We have been disenfranchised by this process for a long time. My parents had to sue the Arlington County School Board over 5 times to be plaintiffs. And they threatened to sue because they tried to kick me out of Gifted and Talented, which at that time was called Seminar at Walter Reed. We fought the Arlington County Public School Board for a long time. We want the Arlington Democrats to help us make equity real.
That's hard to follow.
I yield to Jason Ryman.
Thank you. I'm Jason Rylander. I appreciate the thoughtful dialogue that's been taking place in recent months. People of goodwill and intention are on both sides of this question. The school board caucus is not a perfect process. There are any number of reforms we could consider, including extra days to vote, online voting, elimination of the written pledge voters take to participate. We could encourage the General Assembly to treat the school board like other elected offices and permit primaries. We could also seek congressional reform of the Hatch Act for areas like ours that have high numbers of federal employees. I'm open to these and all other changes, but I'm not supportive of the right. I do not support eliminating our collective right to endorse candidates. The lack of a perfect process is not an argument for no process at all. Why? First, because there's a battle raging over control of public schools. We see it happening all around us, and we need to be engaged to ensure all our kids are safe and that our true history is taught. This is not the time to walk away. I'm also not persuaded by the Hatch Act concerns. Federal employees have always had to choose between their work and elected office for good reason. Even here in Arlington, this issue affects a relatively small number of potential candidates and does not outweigh the broader issues at stake. If eliminating the caucus alone would encourage more diverse candidates or reduce the achievement cap, I would support it, but I don't believe it would. The financial and structural constraints to running a general election campaign without party support are real. We could end up with fewer, not more candidates. And if more people do run, then a very small percentage of the vote in a divided field could elect factional candidates who do not represent Arlington parents and voters. That's the opposite of what we want. The way to diversify the school board and improve our schools is for candidates with good ideas and a passion for change to run and win within the party in a reimagined and improved caucus process. They will have my support, and the winner will have a clear path to win in a general election. As a parent of 2 Arlington public school kids, I know we can do better. Let's continue this discussion, but I'm not convinced that ending the party's role in school board elections will move us forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Rosen. My son just graduated from APS. I've been active in APS for the entire time there since kindergarten. And I have worked on many school board campaigns, including some of the school board members here. And I rise in opposition, in favor of getting rid of the caucus. And I would like to say, to follow up on what JD said, this fear mongering by the Democratic Party frankly got us youngkin. So the caucus was a problem beforehand, the caucus is a problem now. We need to get rid of this fear mongering and work harder to do changes. Everybody talks about reaching out to reach more people. Well, let me tell you, I didn't know about this listening process that was talked about until I wrote a letter once the NAACP asked me to. And then I got a response telling me, oh, tonight there's a listening process. You know, if that's how, you all are talking to yourselves. You're not talking to anybody outside of yourselves, and that's part of the problem. In fact, the notes taken from the session I was in do not reflect the conversation in it. This is a party that's supposed to engage members of Big Ten, not just those of you who become voting volunteers in your club. You say that school board candidates need to represent us. Well, you aren't. Let me tell you, all the Democratic members of the school board have done zero to do anything about the biggest social justice issue when it faces kids and kids of color in APS, and that's literacy. Not one of you have done anything to push literacy that affects our kids who are graduating functionally illiterate. So both Both Democrats and Republicans can have good policies and bad policies. Let's get to it.
All right, we got a little out of order, so Laura Scott Edwards is next, followed by Fran Jackson. Followed by Alan Gajadon, followed by Claire Noakes, followed by Katie Sunderland.
Good evening, everybody. I am Laura Salt Edwards. Moved to Arlington in 1999, 10 days before my daughter was born. And my daughter and my son are both graduates of the Arlington Public School System. Been involved in a number of school board campaigns. And I take this process seriously, and I'm glad we're having this discussion. I've looked at the clock, and in the interest of time, I just want to say I associate myself wholeheartedly with the comments said by everyone who's come up here so far to speak in favor of retaining the caucus and working continuously to make this caucus relevant and to work for all of us and our entire community. I believe it's important to continue improving and learning and listening, and that's how I view this discussion. So I would urge voting members to please vote to retain this caucus and for all of us to work together, seriously work together to improve this process. There are a number of ideas that have been brought forward over time, and particularly through these listening sessions. And I think Jason did a great job of enumerating a number of ideas that we could explore seriously to improve and make the caucus even stronger and involve more people. I won't go in any great length to the many, I think, current affairs that have made it important to retain this caucus so that Democrats know who the Democrats are in this race, these school board races. I'll close by saying thank you for the discussion. Take all the comments seriously. I respect and appreciate everyone that's coming here to speak, no matter what your view is about it. I think we need to retain the caucus. Please vote to do so, and let's work together collaboratively to make it even better. Thank you for considering my views.
Evening, Arlington Democrats. I'm Mike Lieberman. Many of you may remember me. I'm the past chair of this organization, and it's good to see so many of you. And congratulations to my friend Steve Baker on his election a few moments ago. I come before you not only as a former past chair of this organization, but also as someone who's managed school board campaigns and county board campaigns, who's run a school board caucus, who has helped this committee to organize that caucus, and now I'm a parent of two school-age kids, 2nd grade and 5th grade. I got involved in this process, in the Democratic process, more than 20 years ago because, like many of you, I wanted to elect people in Arlington who shared my values. Things like investment in schools, creating opportunities for all kids. And I believe that the school board caucus allows those of us like me to give a voice in our community to those values through our vote. To say through the Democratic endorsement and the Democratic sample ballot that these are people who share our values and that the others in our community can count on to carry those values forward as our elected officials. We're having this debate tonight because I think, as all of you know, the school board endorsement matters in our community. It's the way that we as the Democratic Party give voice to those democratic values and tell others who is going to carry those values forward as their elected officials. What are we doing as a Democratic Party if not telling folks who are going to share those values? So to those who think that the process is inside baseball or too insular, I would say throw your hat in the ring. Tell people why you want the job and go convince people of why that's the case. To those who argue the electorate is too small, go help us bring people into the process. Go help us get people involved. To those who think the process is unfair, I can tell you as someone who tried to organize that process, we do everything it takes to make it fair, including things like under my watch, instituting things like instant runoff voting. And I would certainly tell folks that it's important to all of us to make sure that we are electing our folks who share our values and to make sure that we're fulfilling our duty as party officials to tell others how best to do so. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Abrams, and I'm a parent of 2 children in Arlington Public Schools and a registered Democrat. I am speaking in support of ending the school caucus. And I want to urge the voting members who are here tonight to really recognize the tipping point at which we are in this political moment. So a tipping point is not a majority view, but it's when we have a critical mass coalescing together the right political and social moment to achieve change. And I think we're at that tipping point precipitated by tectonic shifts in our country looking to tear down structural inequalities. And the only way, though, that structural inequalities are torn down is if the leaders who currently hold the power, who control the outcomes, and who pick the players are courageous enough to dismantle the control they hold, not to tinker, not to entrench by doubling down on the status quo, not to engage in hand-wringing or qualifying or yes, but responses. No one speaking on either side wants this to be true, but the reality is that the way the Endorsement Caucus is working has a troublesome cloud hanging over it of inequities, unfairness, confusion, and insularity. So I urge those of you who have this voting power to be courageous in how you use it and transformative in how you lead. I worry that we're engaged in circular reasoning tonight by parading the beneficiaries of this system before us and the administrators of it as proof of its effectiveness. I urge us tonight to listen to communities of color, to listen to people you've never seen in this room before. I teach my children every day to be the change that they want to see in the world. I think that's what we need to do as a party. So to parade in front of the room Republican tactics and scare tactics as the reason for why we should go in a certain direction is not leadership. What we want to do tonight is trust all 230,000 voters to be heard. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Claire Noakes. I am a new face, and I'm coming out to talk about this, and I have prepared remarks, but I do want to share what I have already shared with JD, which is that I don't believe it's fear-mongering. I am really concerned, and I'm not concerned about, one person getting on the school board and voting, opposite of the other 4 Democrats that we have. I'm worried about that person using that office as a platform, as a way of rebelling against from within and destroying from within and getting credibility and a media coverage and then launching further. Why can't they run for county board with all that free publicity? So I am concerned about that issue. What I want to say is also, this is salvageable. Why can't we keep the core functionality and use the sample ballot to promote the best candidate, but we don't have to call it a caucus. I never did caucus until 2 years ago because it's too intimidating. It sounds like Iowa caucus. I get that. It does reduce turnout. Call it a referendum. Call it, get folks involved. Go have a student essay contest as part of it. Ask students, what does being a good Democrat mean to you? And get their parents to come, participate along with submitting the essays. We can get creative. And the hashtag, if you choose someone to promote, that's not the same thing as them seeking the endorsement. And so I want to hear why we can't do what Fairfax is doing, which is choosing federal employees. These issues can be fixed. Please vote to keep it and then fix it in April. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Gadger.
I'm a 30-year resident of Arlington County. I've had 3 children who go through Arlington schools. And I'm speaking here as a private citizen, but my current role in the county is president of the Arlington County Civic Federation. I've served on the school board's budget advisory committee, as well as been involved in schools issues for a number of years. I'm here speaking against the continuation of the caucus as it currently stands to endorse Democratic candidates. A very long time ago, the Civic Federation passed a resolution calling on Arlington political parties to refrain from endorsing school board candidates. There's a state law that makes school board races nonpartisan, and yet the effect of having an endorsement in Arlington like that by the Democratic Party ultimately gets around the clear intent of the state law. What we have here in Arlington is a monolithic voting law that limits the diversity of opinion, limits the diversity of perspective, and limits the folks who can be represented in an organization like this. I have the greatest respect for all the folks who have been on the school board permanently and in the past. I know most of them, and I have great respect for the Democratic Party. I'm a lifelong Democrat myself. But limiting voices, limiting perspectives, and limiting voting rights is not the side we want to be on.
All right, next up is Betsy Lyman. All right. Yeah, we're gonna get right back on order now. So Betsy Lyman, then Katie Sunderland, then Chris O'Donnell, then Michael Weir.
Hi, I'm Josh Kaplowitz. I come here as a parent of 2 APS students and 1 former APS student who's now at Virginia Public College. First, I just have an enormous amount of respect for people on both sides of this issue, and I really have struggled with it. But I think the events of the last year plus, just nationally and statewide, are what's really tipped me in favor of keeping the caucus. I don't think this is fear mongering. I just don't like it's government now. There is a lot of soul searching that we can do about how we lost this election and how education played such a role. We need to have that conversation. I agree with a lot of people, a lot of what's been said on the other side about that. But we're stuck with Governor Youngkin, like we're stuck with and Jason Miyares, and they're just off the wall education, policies, which have been enumerated here. And it just seems like such a strange time. We're not, to walk away from the Democrats' role in picking our school board at this juncture with everything going on nationally and at our doorstep in Fairfax and Loudoun County. Like, we want Democrats on the school board. There's a diversity of Democratic perspectives. I know there's a lot of disagreement, but even within the party, and let's hash that out. And we've heard just some great ideas for how to improve the caucus, and I'm fully behind those. But just to walk away at this juncture, when the Republican Party is weaponizing parents' pain and trying to divide us, just seems like a really poor idea. So, thank you very much.
Hello. I know we're almost towards the end of the night, so I'm just going to touch on 2 issues. The first is voter suppression, and the second is the concern shared by many here that without a caucus, then the Democrats will split the vote. First, we all know the caucus has too low of a turnout and is not representative of our community or the electorate that typically votes in primaries. So why don't more people vote? It's simple. The caucus is poorly advertised, poorly timed, and inaccessible. I moved to Arlington in 2016 and would see yard signs about school board candidates, but was repeatedly confused when I would show up to vote in the primary and there was no school board race on the ballot. I lived here for 2 years before I finally heard about the caucus, but I was still never able to figure out when or how to vote until it was too late. As a campaign manager in the school board caucus last year, I learned my experience is not unique. I was told repeatedly by potential voters at farmers markets and other events, "Don't worry, I already voted, mailed in my ballot last week." Of course, these folks were talking about their mail-in ballot for the primary election. Even the Arlington Dems tabling and sandwich boards that were out wouldn't have any information about the caucus at all. As Democrats, we are supposed to value expanding the franchise, not suppressing it. If we know the way we do things results in low turnout and an uninformed electorate, why would we not change it? If we know historically underrepresented groups, and indeed groups that were previously refused the franchise in Virginia, are underrepresented here, why would we continue to do the same thing? Second, we have a right to be concerned by the movement to ban CRT, books, and promote school choice. Thankfully, however, those are not the issues that have consumed our community. All the issues raised last year in various forums and at school board meetings have been specific Arlington concerns, like plans and priorities for new facilities and compensating our teachers and keeping middle school sports in our tight budget and equitable access to option programs. While the caucus aims to promote democratic values and candidates, what it has actually done is suppress the vote and keep highly qualified federal employees from serving on the school board.
We're up to Chris O'Donnell, followed by Michael Beer. Okay. Then next up would be Mary Cadera, followed by Heather Kepler. Just reading off the list here. Then Mary Detweiler, Hajjal Mohammed. Then Marjorie Homer.
Just 10%. We have 10%. The rules were 10 speakers.
No, the rules go up to an hour. We've got about 10 minutes left. So the next person?
Read the next thing.
Sure. Okay. If I read your name, you can come up and go ahead. Okay. All right, on the yes side, the final people whose name I did not read: Herschel Cantor, Bob Platt, John Miller.
What's your name? Michael Beer. Is that me?
Yep.
I want to thank the Democratic Party here in Arlington for all you've done. I want to thank the school board. I'm Michael Beer. Probably attended more school board meetings over the last 12 years than any other person besides a school board member, longtime chair of the Civic Federation School Committee, although I'm not the chair anymore. I rise in strong opposition to this endorsement caucus process. I've worked on Democratic campaigns since I was 9 years old. I've worked hundreds of campaigns. I do not work campaigns generally in Arlington County. I'm not a member of this Democratic Party here because I do not feel comfortable handing out a ballot in which the Democratic Party is endorsing a candidate for what is supposed to be nonpartisan elections. I believe that this law is a good one. We see nonpartisan elections sweep everything west of Mississippi, most of the South. It's only the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic of the United States that still has partisan kind of election stuff going on. We need to be part of the way to the future. I want to say something that's hard to say, which is that I think that our school board quality has been uneven. I think that I know of Hatch employees, federal employees, who would like to run, who are incredibly capable and knowledgeable, who have not. The two very strong candidates that have run over the last 20 years, who are Democrats, who could not run for this party nomination and try to run as independents, were both women of color, they both lost. So I think that there's, the evidence is there. We have tremendous voter exclusion, and we have a real problem with quality. I would say the Democrats should always reserve the right to endorse the candidates. If the Republicans or the Greens or whatever do it, you can always do this. I would say the Arlington Educational Association and others could do endorsements to ensure the conservatives don't get in. Don't reform this, get rid of it.
Hi, I'm Bob Platt, and I've been a precinct captain since 1991. I deeply appreciate everything that everyone shared tonight, but I personally am coming out in favor of continuing the caucus. It's very important for us to have a democratic school board. Negotiating resources between the county board and the school board are very difficult without injecting into that a Republican school board member who would try to use those negotiations for partisan posturing and politicization. As for ACDC, we can get away from the prototypical sport-filled room. The best way to do that is have a very open process. The school board caucus is as open as we're allowed under the party rules. And I favor doing whatever we can to increase voter participation in it, but I think we're stuck with the process. We have had up to 7 candidates in one caucus, and if all the candidates were to run in November, a Republican with only 13% of the vote could outvote an evenly split field. So it's very important to keep it. We must continue our fight for someone with democratic values in November. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Heather Kepler. It's interesting hearing from all of these school board members who have benefited from this process. I also was a precinct captain, and I was fired from my job for supporting a Democratic Black woman who was running for school board. I am also a mom of 3 kids in the Arlington public school system, and I've been a substitute teacher in the schools on the ground for the past 3 years. And I agree that our quality of school board members has gone down, whether that's hard to say or not. I also wanted to address the fact that this is supposed to be a democratic process, and instead what's happened is we have a very small group of mostly white, mostly North Arlington people choosing who gets to be on our school board. The Black community has stood here for years telling you that they are not represented, and they're telling you here again tonight to please vote no on this caucus. Arlingtonians are Democrats. They like to walk around wearing their Black Lives Matter t-shirts, but then they don't listen when they're being asked by that very community to make a process that actually includes their voices. Their children are the ones who are being harmed by this process, and they are asking you to help them change. I've also heard many people up here tonight blame the Black community for not getting people out to vote. You're blaming a minority community for not being the ones to get people out to vote, to advertise more, when you're the ones that are in control. Look at who is on this committee tonight that's allowed to vote, and that's the purposeful choice of that word, allowed. The people allowed to vote tonight are almost all white. That should not be who is choosing to represent the people of this community that are asking for a change. Please vote no on this process. Thank you.
All right, we have enough time for one more speaker from each side. So there's John Moreland. Okay, Marjorie, then you're up for the yeses, and then one more for the no's.
My friend and member of this committee, Catherine Scruggs, asked me to read her statement. She's in medical care, hospitalized, and can't be with us tonight. She says, although I am an Arlington NAACP member and committee member, I am deeply opposed to canceling the ACDC School Board Caucus. I'm a retired teacher, former president of the Arlington Education Association, and member of their political action committee. The caucus has not disenfranchised brown and black communities, as evidenced by the number of brown and black elected members to the school board. I believe strongly in the platform of the Democratic Party and have been proud to support the candidacies of endorsed Democrats. The Arlington community has not arrived at equity yet, and that's a serious shortcoming. Some parts of the solution involve erasing persistent legacies of housing segregation and therefore school segregation, exclusionary zoning, and various housing types. But so she is urging you to please not eliminate the caucus. Eliminating the caucus does not solve any of those problems, but certainly opens the doors to pots of money coming from fringe groups and creates an unhealthy climate in an election where qualified candidates may choose not to run because of the increased cost. And speaking for myself, I was executive director of the Arlington Education Association for almost 30 years. It makes a difference who serves on the school board. It makes a difference whether they're committed to the success of every one of our diverse students or just their own children and children like theirs. It makes a difference how persuasive school board members are, the county board and general assembly delegations. It makes a difference who we put on the school board, and we need to nominate a strong candidate.
Hello?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Haji Mohammed. I've been in Arlington, South Arlington for about, I want to say, 11 years. I'm a parent of 2 children that attend Arlington Public Schools. I'm not a great public speaker, but I have to say that. Boots on the ground. I'm in Arlington Public Schools. I work for Arlington Public Schools, and I'm with the children who are in the 8th grade who do not know how to read. They read the kindergarten Bible. So if having a caucus, if this is the outcome I'm seeing in a classroom with the children, they can't read, they're functionally illiterate when they come out, then I have to say, and I'm not really involved in politics as much, I'm not engaged, I am independent, my vote goes either way, I'm not dedicated to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, whatever party is in interest of the children, Black children, okay? Thank you.
Wow, folks, that was really amazing. We had a lot of great speakers tonight. And I heard a lot of really amazing ideas. And I just want to thank everyone for coming out and taking the time to share their views and share their great ideas. And thank you everybody for listening to each other, being kind to each other, and taking part in this process. I hope it's a start. And I just want to thank you for being here tonight. Drive home safe, and hope to see you all in the future. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks.